Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to Cities Skylines. And I hope you enjoyed finding out about the little find it sub-buildings trick in the last episode. I think it makes such a difference, particularly to some of these big industrial buildings, to use that and just help to make your cities completely unique and original. I really enjoyed that trick. Now for today, we are actually going to be moving away from the downtown and other big builds to focus on this little peninsula out on the Nordberg Ring Island over here. Now, one thing that was mentioned by several of you when we built in the racetrack was that we needed housing for the Formula One drivers. So that's what we're going to be tackling today. We're going to be putting in some really big luxury mansions, detailing up the little waterfront around the ferry here, and adding in a small kind of village area onto this peninsula. So let's crack on. So first things first, I do actually want to relocate the bus depot and the taxi depot that we have just very carelessly plopped along this road here. Now, I don't really want them situated in our little village area that we are going to be creating over here because I just don't think that they have the right vibes. So what I am thinking is that I'm going to create a separate little depot area for them over here. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I will do is I think we'll grab the same road that we have used here, this country lane road, and we'll just bring out an extra section here to accommodate our buildings. So we'll just bring it out like that for now. Now the terrain is slopey here, so let's actually just make sure that this is aligned to terrain height and not sinking down into it like that. And then let's just grab our buildings and relocate them. So let's take the bus depot first of all, if I can remember where we're actually going with this. So I think we will place this in like this. This does need a little bit of detailing around it just to help it all blend in, but actually it goes quite nicely and flows quite nicely into this country road like that. And then let's grab the taxi depot as well and we'll relocate this too. Now, I don't know in terms of orientation if actually that would be quite nice with the fencing up next to the road there. This road is a little bit slopey, so it's not really helping with the fencing situation there. So let's just move it and shift it over ever so slightly so that fence is nice and straight. So yeah, I think that works. So we may pop in some other services over here as and when needed, but I think for now that'll do nicely. And I do want to keep this nice clearing of trees here, but we've got a little bit of terrain kind of jankiness here that would be good to just smooth out. So let's grab our terrain tools and we'll just give that a little smooth at the back there so we don't get that rock texture poking through. And we'll come back through in the detail and time lapse and give this a little bit of extra detail here and sharpen it up a little bit, but I think for now that will be fine. It's a bit more of a sensible placement than being right in the middle of what we are going to be building over here. Now I'm just going to pause the game because we do have a bus stop and a ferry stop down here, which are both actually super busy, taking people from this island across to Stanton Island and actually down on through to the Woodhaven Harbour over here, and of course on round into the downtown as well. So it's a pretty busy stop, and then the bus line just takes them from areas on this island and down to the ferry terminal here. So I kind of want to change this all up, but we will come to that later. But what I'm going to do for now is just delete out this road network because I don't want it to look like that. So we're actually just going to delete this all the way back. We'll keep the game paused as we do that. And then before I start building, this is quite bumpy terrain. There's little sort of subtle undulations in it. So what I would like to do is just flatten out the area. Okay, so the reason why I have flattened out all of the land and we've removed the trees as well so we can see what we're doing for the time being is because I am going to be putting giant mansions in here which require an awful lot of detailing, which will include decals. So if the land is flat, it's going to help me out tremendously in terms of getting all of that looking absolutely spot on and perfect. We will be having different layers of height in here as we come down towards the waterfront as well, so it's not all going to be completely flat in the end, but we need to start from this as a base. And what it means is we've now got these awkward heights around this junction road here, so let's get rid of those. We'll just put in a road. I think we'll click home so we go to terrain height. We'll click in a road onto the flat surface here, and what I'm going to do is level off this node to the height that this area is, and then we can also bring that one down to the same height. Now we do need to re-slope some of these roads here, so let's just grab all of those nodes and go ahead and do that. That's a bit more of a gentle slope that makes a bit more sense there, and exactly the same thing the other side. But then we're just smoothing out some of these edges. I think we can do a bit of detailing along this to help this blend in a bit more. Particularly this end here up against the highway. We definitely want some of our old familiar Auridon rocks in here just to tidy all of that up. But again, we'll come on to that in the detailing time lapse. And so the next thing is to lay out our road network for this area. Now, of course, we need to make sure that we're leaving space for the mansions, but I also do want some smaller but fancy, nice looking houses, because this is ultimately going to be quite a rich, well-to-do area with a beautiful little waterfront to boot as well. So we need to make sure that the road network accommodates all of those different things. Okay, so I have just changed it up to a 2-unit road here, which I think is more appropriate for this kind of smaller village type of vibe. We've got the nice tree median road here with the parking on the edge as well. And we'll have a little bit of sort of high street vibe around this corner and lots of shops along the waterfront. And of course, we'll do lots of detailing along here still to come. I have put in a car park down here because I'd like to link it to a park area on this small peninsula here and have a little bit of beach detailing and the such down this side. And we'll also link a pathway through down to the ferry and the waterfront this side too. And then of course, because of traffic flow and thinking about where cars are going to go, we don't want this entire area to be feeding through this highway junction here. We don't want this to choke. So I have just given them another access point out onto this collector, which takes them straight across through into the downtown and onto the downtown ring road round here. So there's multiple ways that they can get about without having to necessarily choke up this junction this side. Okay, so the next thing I do want to do is actually change up this ferry terminal. So at the moment it's just a single one, but what we are going to do coming very soon is create a kind of special build on this island over here, and it will be completely isolated, so ferry access only. So what I would like to do is add on the double unit ferry terminal here so that we've got multiple platforms so we can send people out to this island and then back to Stanton Island or to the downtown or wherever it is that they need to go. So while the game is still paused, let's delete this for now. We'll go into our ferry menu and we will select the bigger ferry pier asset here. So let's get that in like that. And then of course what we do want to do is then check that all of our ferry lines that's now making sense. So we are going to need to do a little bit of redoing on this. So let's just remove those back just a little bit and then we'll connect them in. So let's make sure that we are snapping to those nodes nicely and we'll just curve this in nice and smoothly into this side of the terminal here. And of course I'm using the ship path, not the ferry. That is why it would connect up nicely there. So yeah, let's try that again. And then for this island, what I am going to do is actually use a ferry pier off the workshop, which is this small one here. So we are going to place this just on this little beach. So I think we will put it right in the middle, and I'm not going to worry too much about detailing this up for now. However, this road looks absolutely awful like this. So So we are just going to fix that. So if we hold Alt with Move It, we can select the road and then delete it out. And what I'm going to do is actually draw in a key with a road next to it. So let's go in, and I'm just going to use the basic key for this. This doesn't need to be a walkable key at all. So let's draw that in like this. Of course, let's lower that down so it makes sense with the ferry terminal here. I want to raise that up just a little bit, and then I'll just pull this ferry terminal back ever so slightly. Now that is quite raised up, so let's of course drop this down, and we're actually going to use sailing boats on this route. So it doesn't need to be particularly high at all. I'm thinking actually the lower the water, the better here. And yeah, with this key, what it gives us is quite a nice kind of layer of height into this little ferry terminal here too. So let's just grab these and make sure that they are all aligned up properly. We can have a little bit of distance between it because we've got this little connector bridge there, which I think is quite cute. We'll just drag this one back. Now we've still got some of that pavement surface painter there, so let's go into our ruined texture, and we're actually just going to cover that up with a little bit of ruined surface painter so that we can't see that concrete there. And then what I will do for now behind it is just add in a gravel road so that it is connected here. And let's of course again make sure that these are the correct heights. And so it matches nicely up to the edge of this key here. So that needs to be just dropped down just a tiny bit. So yeah, that's now looking pretty good. So let's go back into Ferry Networks. And what I'm going to do to this is only going to be connected to this one stop. So I'm just going to bring out a very, very simple connection there. And then we will go ahead and add in the lines. Now, why can I not see any of my ferry lines? Okay, so yeah, it looks like our yellow one is now bypassing our stop over here. So let's correct that and bring that back in nicely. So I think we'll have them coming in this side. And then let's grab this other line. We'll drag this into here. And then what we'll do is create a new line which just goes directly from there to this terminal and back out again. And let's make that a white line. And I am going to select the types and make sure we've only got our sailboats on that, because I think that is quite important. We'll just call this Island Connect for now while we don't have any names for our islands. Now it looks like the Stanton Island to Stadium Connect line has broken. So let's actually just go into here, and what we will do is delete that. And now our yellow line, we just turn off all of the others. Our yellow ferry line goes from Stanton Island through into the downtown. So let's just make sure that that is correctly labelled. The Stanton Island to downtown. We've then got the Stanton Island ferry, which connects up all of the internal ports. So we'll leave that as that. And then we've got our Island Connect, and then we did have one more ferry which was coming from the stadium over here. So let's add that line back in, because that's the one that I have now screwed up and deleted. That's going to go from Stadium Park all the way across to Stanton Island again. So this is essentially going to be the main ferry terminal here with 3 different ferry lines coming into it. So yeah, let's leave that in there, and then we'll just very simply bring this back this way. Like that. Let's change the colour, and it was a nice purple colour before, so let's leave it on that. And we'll call this Stanton Island to Stadium Park. In fact, we'll call it Stanton Island to OAP Plaza, because we do have a name for that area. And let's just select the types of that and make sure it is only on ferry. So that's a little bit more appropriate there. Okay, so that should be all of the lines hooked in now. So we should be able to press play, actually, and to see if we can get this working. We've got the lovely sailboat coming through here. Now this one, of course, may struggle a little bit for services because there is nothing on this island as of yet, but we will leave that in place so that it is there and ready to go when the time comes. Okay, so next up, I do want to place in the mansions. So the mansions that we are using are these ones. So this is one of them, and it's a mansion pack by Thomas, which you can find linked below and on the Steam workshop, and they are absolutely stunning assets. Now you can get them all detailed up, but also just as regular assets, which is what I have got. So we are going to be putting in our own detailing onto these to make them, yeah, Auridon specials, as it were. But they are absolutely stunning assets, and you will need Rico to make sure that they are residential assets as well, I would add. So in terms of placement, the first one that I do want to put in is one over here. So let's plop that in there, and then we are going to drag that back so that it has got its own kind of placement over here. So for now, we're just going to put that there, and then there is an awful lot of detailing required around this. As you can see, there's literally nothing on it. So we will be coming on in the detailing time lapse to add in decals, tennis courts, pools, prop furniture, prop cars, driveways, landscaping, fencing around it. It is going to be a long detailing time lapse today because we have got 5 of these individual mansions to put in, as well as detailing up the rest of the area. So it's going to be very details focused. But yeah, you can just see the absolute scale of these, and it really doesn't compare. If we have a look against what I would call a vanilla mansion and what we have used elsewhere in Auridon. So my favourite one, for example, is this one. And you just look at the scale of the 2 houses, it doesn't really compare. Like, this is a really nice fancy house, but that is really a mansion that a Formula 1 driver might want to live at. So that's what we're going to be going for here. So I have one over there, and let's just make sure the Rico settings are on it. So at the moment it is a unique building, so let's just pop into Rico. Let's go add local. We'll change it to residential. And in terms of homes, I'm not going to do it as 1. We're not using realistic population, and we do need people here. So I am actually just going to change that to 20, which I know is not overly realistic, but it is what it is. And we'll make it a level 5 as well. And let's save and apply changes so that that is now a residential asset. And then over here, we are going to add a couple more. So let's go back to our mansions and see which ones we want to add. So this one is absolutely stunning. Absolutely love this one. This one's got a beautiful back to it. So I think we'll save that actually for another location. This is probably the largest asset. So I think what we're going to do with this one is actually place this over in this corner over here. So this one is going to have really nice coastal views right out to the Statue of Liberty and Liberty Rock over there. And then we also have this one with this beautiful balcony and backyard in it too. I think this one goes quite nicely because of the red terracotta roofs. So let's position this one just out here. And again, lots and lots of detailing to go in around that. And then over this side, we will add in this one, which is actually very, very slightly smaller. So it will allow space for us to put housing along this road too. And we're going to give all of these their own driveways, I would add. So that's why I'm kind of positioning them slightly away from the roads here. So we will be coming in and doing that once we've plopped in the residential along these roads as well. And then if we come on over here, this is where I want the final mansion to be. So we will use this one, this side. And let's just position that up really nicely here. So I think actually, yeah, I think we'll position it like that. And so, I mean, here you can see what we're going to be doing with the driveways. So I will add in, I think probably a country lane, and what we'll probably do is add decals over it to make it a really kind of fancy driveway in that sense. But that's how we'll sort of connect it up away from the road, then have this beautiful, beautiful yard at the back. In fact, I think we'll probably put that close to the water. Yeah, because this one will have absolutely stunning views out to the downtown, to Solitude Port over there, to Eggsy Isle, all the way around to the Statue of Liberty. So this is kind of prime location, I think, this house here. Let's just shift that up, and actually we'll align it up with that entrance road there as well. And let's go round also. Let's not forget to make sure that these are all recode. Now already our waterfront is getting pretty busy down here. We definitely want to connect in this car park and actually put in some car parking spaces while I'm thinking about it, so that we can get people a bit better access and a bit more facilities for car parking here. So let's actually just put in some disabled spots as usual up the front, and then we'll add in some more spaces just behind that too. There we go. And then we will want a path, so let's just add one roughly for now so that we can get people moving around here a little bit more freely. So let's connect that. I think we will actually do a coastal path here. So we'll follow this cliff face round this side to the end of the car park over here. And then, yeah, that should be connected in. And of course, those spaces have now deleted. So let's make sure we add them back in. And the slope here isn't too steep, although those benches look a little bit strange. So what we can actually do is find our path propless and get rid of those benches. And in actual fact, actually, I think we can keep them at the top of the hill because that looks quite pleasant, although facing the wrong way. We may adjust that in the detailing time lapse, but for the slope, we definitely don't want those benches sticking up in mid-air there. So yeah, hopefully that'll give them a little bit more access to parking. But yeah, it's looking quite nice and busy, I think, along this waterfront. So the next thing that we do want to do is start plopping in some of our smaller residential units along these roads and in this little cul-de-sac here. So what I have done on Find It is set up a tag called Narrow Nice. So this is a selection of houses which I deem to be quite nice looking, look a little bit richer and a little bit posher. We've got a mix of some of the university content creators and also the mid-century modern as well in there. And some of the American eclectic back from the workshop as well that we used down in Woodhaven. Haven't actually used since. But all of these buildings are either too wide, most of them are too wide, and some of them three. So they're quite narrow, so it will feel relatively packed in, but like they are slightly nicer, posher houses. And so what I will be doing is using the randomised function. So for me it's Alt-V, and it just randomises houses from this different selection. So we'll use that to get these plopped in nice and quickly along this road. Okay, so I did have to end up using a little bit of Move It just to get the houses into the position that I wanted, because they don't always fit within the zones when you're just straight plopping from Find It. But I think it's come up with quite a nice effect. They're relatively packed in, which is the vibe that I wanted, with the big spaces left open around the mansions. I have also added in services. We've got literally all of the services here. We've got child health care, we've got a primary school, medical, death care, playground, which will be massively detailed up, elder care, and then I've also made a little separate utility area over here with rubbish collection, fire and police. So absolutely everything is covered in this area, so it should be pretty high land values if we were to go and look at those. Let's just take a little quick look. So yeah, it definitely is. So that's exactly what we want for this area. It is meant to be a really nice, rich little town. I've also started to add in a bit of commercial here. We've got a post office on the corner and then just a couple of little commercial units as we go down this slope here. Being really careful about using these corner assets in each of these cases so that we get nice orientation onto the main street there, which I think is pretty important. So what I do want to do now is just focus on this waterfront by the ferry here. So we definitely want to add in some keys, and what I would like to add is some kind of entertainment and maybe a little bit of marina detailing around here as well. So let's go ahead and have a look at the keys. So what we will use in one little strip here is actually some of the staired key. So let's go ahead and place that in. We'll just have one little strip like this, which is where they can go down to access essentially the marina. Let's then just join it in either side with small segments like this, keeping the same theme there. And then, of course, this is not what we want at all. So let's go ahead and make sure that all of these are level to the road here, that we get that nice smooth waterfront. Then we just need to adjust it slightly with Move It. So we'll pull this key edge right up to the edge of the ferry pier here. We need to do a little bit of terraforming there to sort that out. And then let's just make sure that this is all nice and tucked in close to the road here as well. We'll leave a tiny gap there and we'll join it up to paths so that people can indeed walk along it. But we'll just bend this round. I think we will curve this like the road here, so that makes a little bit more sense. And then let's just finish it off by, we'll make sure we're snapping to the angle here, by drawing in a curve into the ground over this side. And let's turn off snapping, so we can get that in nicely, and we'll just bring that in like this. And then what we will do is grab Move It and make sure that that is leveled to the same height here. Now it is digging right into the ground, so we do just want to pull that back a touch so that's not as severe. Go ahead and re-level it there, and then we can use a little bit of detailing and an extra path connection up the slope this side. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll just use the main concrete path I think for this. We do need to slope this land out just a little bit. So let's grab our smoothing tools. Let's make sure we're not too big here. Yeah, we'll just smooth that out like that so that slope is slightly less severe. It's pretty wonky actually. So what we could do to make that a little bit nicer is use the slope function, and let's just go up from this point here and slope that nicely. Now that clearly is not kind of like merging into the key there. So let's grab our path node here. And we'll just raise this up a little bit. In fact, what may be easier for this is actually to use on the park life paths, because that will conform to the terrain, so it'll make it a little bit easier for us to get a nice slope in here. And I think actually what we will do is line it up to the edge of the key so it flows a little bit better there. And nicely adjoined onto the pavement at the top side there. So yeah, that makes sense. And then let's of course make sure that we've got path connections through so that people can actually walk on the quays. So we'll make sure that by that zebra crossing there, right by the ferry, and also down this end too. So there should be nice easy walking connections onto there. And then we just need a little bit of surface painter to tidy this up in this gap. And it'll probably require a little bit of brush tool at either end just to tidy that all up too. There we go, so I think that's looking quite neat now. Let's just see if we can terraform out this bit of ground here. We'll just try and level it off and push it up as much as we can, which looks like that is now sorted. Now, the thing is with the stairs down is that I do want to create this nice little pier bit, but before we do that, let's have a little look at some of the waterfront assets we could add onto here. Because one thing I haven't used yet is this restaurant here, which I thought might be quite nice to use here. So if we just add it down onto the end here, what we can do is then just drop it down a little bit so that platform goes into the side. The key is very slightly clipping, but not enough to interrupt the stairs there. So I feel like that's quite nice. You get nice little views over pretty much everywhere from that little restaurant pier, so I'm quite pleased with that. And then I'd like to get a little bit of marina boat action going on here. So let's have a little bit of a look at some of the pier assets that we have. Now I do have these piers like this, which is a new asset that I have found. And I think that this is probably actually going to look pretty good here. We just make sure the level is right and lines up nicely with these stairs. What we can do is kind of merge it into the side of where the stairs come out here. These stairs look really wonky from a top-down view. That's a little bit high up, so let's just drop that down so it's right almost on top of the water, like so. And then, yeah, if we bring it up to the stairs, we can line that in nicely, almost so that the stairs just go down onto the pier and flow in pretty well. Now it's saying it's flooded, but yeah, it might need to come up a little bit higher. Then I think what we will do is do exactly the same thing this side of those stairs as well. We get this kind of little marina boatyard here. So let's again just drop this down. We'll actually just make sure it is the same height as this one over this side. And we can just merge it in nicely into the stairs like so. Here we get this nice little boat pier front here. And I think actually I'm going to actually just add in a third one, which I think, again, will look pretty nice here. So let's just drop it down, make sure that it is the same height as this one here, and then align up those ends really nicely so they're super uniform and joined together and flow naturally. And then within that, what we will do is put in lots of boat props like we have done in our other marinas. More different types of motorboat. Lots of these kind of assets is what we will be placing around here, just to fill this out as a very small, another little marina around this side, just in addition to that ferry stop there, which I think will look quite nice. And then along the waterfront, what I would like to do is add in a little bit more commercial, but be very particular about the assets that we're going to be using here. So actually the assets that I do want are these ones, which I think just make a really nice waterfront. So we're going to have 3 of these all in a row. And I just love the awnings on them and the shapes that those make. And let's all make sure that they are all the same height and they flow together really nicely. But I think that just gives a nice little waterfront to our pier there. And then along this side we will be using more of those university content creator pack assets. So I think namely these ones with the archways in the front would go super nice here. But we are going to need to use a little bit of Move It just to make sure that they are all merged together and make sense nicely. And because this road is slightly curved, this will be fairly tricky to implement. So I am actually just going to angle this one slightly further round than what the road is telling me it should be, so that we can start to get some decent shapes in there. And we want to make sure that those archways are flowing through nicely and nothing looks super strange from that perspective. Let's try and get a third one in here. It will just have to bend slightly further away from the road, like that. And again, let's of course make sure that they are all the same height there. And then this corner we could add in a very small bar or something like that. I'm thinking something pretty small is what we want here. I don't want too much detailing at the back of it, is the other thing to consider. Perhaps a catfish cafe actually would be the way to go here. Just got a bin out the back so it's not too obvious and intrusive from that respect. And it is impeding a little bit on this house, so I think maybe we might have to demolish that. Let's look at a different house to go in there. So that is all of our main assets into this build, so it is now time to come in with the detailing. And as mentioned, there will be a lot of intricate detailing around the mansion villas here to give them their own beautifully crafted, unique grounds. But also lots of detailing around the waterfront, the little park onto the peninsula, the beach area around the houses at the back there, and then just an absolute ton of detailing in amongst the houses around the highway exits and the coastlines here to complete this really fancy area. So I'll jump into a time lapse and I'll be right back. Now, before we begin the detailing review, I have to say this is probably, actually 100% definitely the most detailed residential district that I have ever done. The detailing actually took hours. Like, I was individually placing trees at one point and putting in these little driveways as well for all the houses, covering up grass to make sure that the concrete texture went into their driveways. Then I realised I was getting a little bit obsessive, but do you know what? I think it has turned out all right. So if we start down this end, I have just detailed up the coast a little bit. I've actually smoothed out the edge of the landscape here, so instead of having that kind of cliff, it's like the trees come right down to the water, which I really like. It gives a little break up in the kind of rocky cliff textures around a lot of these islands around here. So just smoothing that out I think has helped a lot and bringing the trees right down. So with this mansion, we've got a little pier, a couple of boats, little floated pier out there as well they can swim to. The water, I have to say, is really rough going around this corner though, so I don't know how much you'd want to actually swim in it. And then coming up to the mansion, so with all of them, we have just done some tiling detail for the backyards. I think they've all got pools, little pagodas, deck chairs, the such like. Lots of different props in this one, like the kids' Wendy house over the back here, trampoline, sand pit, paddling pool as well as the main swimming pool here. Yeah, I think it looks pretty cute. And then as we come down the front, we've obviously detailed in where the driveway goes and a nice little pathway up to the front door here with a bit of flower bed detailing. And then of course this tennis court in as well, which is a really nice asset. You can change the colour to any colour you want. And then all of these houses are of course gated in. As we go around this little community, I love how this one looks from the road. It's gated in here. And yeah, we just come in with a little driveway, a little bit of tiling detail. Small pool area in this one, just basic concrete actually, didn't go for the tiles here just to change it up a little bit. A small kind of private pool yard there with this super high privacy hedge going on all the way around. Of course the tennis court, fountain, that sort of thing. And then they've got this lovely little pagoda which is overlooking the ocean here. Now I have actually tried to think about different viewpoints. So for example on this mansion here, it's very, very much of the same thing here. We've got this little pagoda out at the end, which you can just sit on and look out to Eggsy's Island. I thought that was really rather nice. And this one, of course, they've got the viewpoints out to the Statue of Liberty right from the pool here. So yeah, that's a fantastic view from this one. Then coming on over here, we just added in a few park assets, a little bit of rock detailing, using a visible path across the beach. So it is quite nice when you see people walking backwards and forwards, just walking on the beach as opposed to like having that kind of path decal put in there. And then just a couple of assets out on the end here. So these two viewing platforms, little gazebo in the middle, and then just some smaller assets down here. I actually used a little hunting cabin, which I thought was quite nice. There's a little kind of beach hut there. And for the rest of it, we have just detailed up the coastline with all the houses. Every single house on this build has its own backyard, either hedged in or fenced in or some kind of definition to it. And I think that helps to make it feel like there's nicer homes. They've got a little bit more boundary to them. But yeah, when you go down to the street level, it's looking pretty cute. Lots and lots of greenery. But yeah, enough space and nice looking houses, I think, there. And yeah, in particular, this is the money shot when you come down the street and you've got the Statue of Liberty there. Really like that. Down on the waterfront, not a lot has happened. We've just added in the little marina, obviously with our boat props there, which I think looks pretty good. And then, yeah, added in a back street for these shops here. And then to get rid of this bank and to make sure we had enough room for the elementary school, which I moved around a few times, I've added in a retaining wall here with ploppable grass, just to give us that extra height to this. So it all looks like it kind of flows down, and then we've just got the retaining wall. Oh, we can see through the trees down at the bottom here. So I think that turned out quite nice. And then they've got access from their back gardens this side too. And then, yeah, much of the same over this area with this mansion here. This was actually the first one I did. I now dislike it more so than the other ones. Yeah, we've got just the basic kind of pool detailing. Actually left that quite enclosed here. So it's a nice little viewpoint from that pagoda through the trees, but actually relatively private for that one. Now we've done a little bit of detailing around the fire station and the police station, added in some of our props here, scuffed up the surface a little bit, but actually kept it relatively open and clean here, which I thought was needed for these two areas. Just kind of stand back by themselves. Then much more of the same as we come down here. They've all got their own backyards, lots of nice space, a couple of little bits of flower bed detailing and stuff like that, but I haven't gone overboard with all the garden props. A lot of them already have little patios and props in it, so I didn't feel that that was necessary. Then we come on to this mansion here, which is definitely my favourite. I'm absolutely loving this. Again, the view from the road is really what it's all about when you pass these big private houses and you wonder who lives in there, which Formula One driver lives in there. And we come in here, we've got the nice basketball court, little private walkway down to the pool here, through the little open gate and into the pool area with all of these different sun loungers and parasols. And a little wicker furniture set there, and I've actually added in some plants in the middle of the pool, which I thought gave it quite a nice effect. And yes, we have used quite a few palm trees for some of these mansions, but they can survive in this kind of climate, so I think it's quite nice. And actually, it's not too cold in Auridon. It is a boreal theme, but maybe a little bit hotter than we think. There's lots of boats and beaches going on here. Giving them their own little private pier as well at the back here, but loving how that mansion looks with these little tree lines down the side as well. Yeah, super cute. And one other fun quirky thing you won't have seen is I added this little running policeman running into the police station, just for shits and giggles. I thought it was quite funny. But really that is it. So it doesn't sound like much, but this genuinely took me absolutely hours to do all of these mansions individually, the park, the waterfront, all of these back gardens individually as well. Oh, I forgot this little waterfront here. I've kept this very open. Just a few benches, a couple of canoe props there as well. People could walk down and go with their boats into the ocean if they wanted to. Yeah, there we go. That is this area complete. Now, I would love to give this a name, so please drop your name suggestions in the comments. Our other rich district was obviously Bill Air over there, so anything along those lines, any puns on rich to do with Williams or trees or Auridon or Few if you really want. Go for it, suggest them in the comments and we will give this a name on a future episode. And I do plan on coming in with a stream that I unfortunately had to cancel last week to build out this island. We're going to do something special there, as mentioned. We've already got that ferry port in there, so watch out for that coming soon. But for today, that is going to be it. So if you have enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares are super appreciated and really help me to grow as a channel. And if you wish to support the channel further, there are ways to do that linked in the description below. But otherwise, that is it from me for now. So stay tuned for the cinematics and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.